Each day, we encounter thousands of inventions that help us out in our daily life. Whether it's the road you drive on or the potable water you drink, we're surrounded by interesting inventions that keep the world turning. Many of these items are incredibly useful and serve a specific purpose, yet we don't really think much about them or even wonder why they're designed in such a specific way. Though everything has a purpose, and today we'll be going over 10 things in everyday life that have amazing uses. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos. The small pocket on jeans. Blue jeans are some of the greatest pants to ever be created. They're extremely durable, last a very long time, and keep us protected from the elements and everything else life may throw at us. Best of all, they even have pockets to hold things. Who would have thought a clothing item could be so useful? But have you ever noticed that above the right pocket on your jeans, there's a smaller pocket that no one really ever talks about? As is true with many inventions, we've almost forgotten the purpose of this pocket entirely. It's the age-old tale of when you stop doing something, you usually forget how to do it. That is true for this pocket. Levi Strauss began developing the patent for the first pair of jeans back in 1873. His patent was approved, and his design included a pocket for a very specific reason: to hold a pocket watch. Wristwatches wouldn't become popular until many years later, and pocket watches were worn by nearly everyone at the time. It was pretty common to store your watch in your vest pocket at this point. But Levi wanted to create a small pocket that would keep your watch more protected. However, as years passed by and we no longer used watches, the purpose of this pocket was almost forgotten in history. Since jeans were invented, we've found countless other uses for these pockets. Some may use it for storing spare change, medicine, guitar picks, notes, keys, or countless other things, though its original purpose was to make sure you stayed on time. Since its invention, this pocket has become irreplaceable, even if we don't use it for its intended purpose anymore. Also, the reason it's on the right-hand side of your jeans is that most people are right-handed. Holes in a spaghetti spoon. Anytime you serve spaghetti, do you even think before you grab a spaghetti spoon? All of us have one, that special spoon that's reserved exclusively for spaghetti or pasta. The crazy thing is, most of us never really think about the spoon's design and how it keeps the spaghetti-eating process as simple as possible. This spoon was developed for several purposes. On one hand, it keeps the noodles neatly held inside the spoon. This keeps them from spilling out and making a mess. The other function is that it helps to drain all of the water off your pasta so you're not dealing with wet, soggy noodles. To make it even better, it was designed to hold exactly one portion of spaghetti, so you don't need to break out the scale or measuring cup the next time you're on a diet. This is a super useful kitchen utensil that most of us rarely think about. Hole in a lollipop stick. This one is a bit weird, and I'm sure a lot of us never noticed this in the first place. If you've had a lollipop in the last few years, have you wondered why the stick is usually hollow? This may not be true for all lollipops, but for many of them, the stick is hollow in the center, almost making it appear like a coffee stirrer. In reality, this hollowed stick is very important to the lollipop manufacturing process. Obviously, the lollipop candy portion is quite a bit heavier than the stick itself, so to keep it from falling off the stick during the manufacturing process, a small amount of candy oozes down inside the stick. This secures it to the stick so that it never has a chance to fall off and make a mess. It's a pretty small detail, but it's super important to keep your lollipop candy firmly attached to the stick. Pockets in women's underwear. If you've ever taken a close look at a pair of women's underwear, you may have noticed that there's a strange pocket sewn into the crotch. This isn't true for every pair of underwear, but you'll find this odd pouch in most. A lot of people have speculated about the pocket for years, but its true purpose is actually pretty obvious. While many people thought this could have been used as a storage compartment for hygiene products, you have to admit that would be a pretty odd and uncomfortable place to store them. The real reason is pretty simple and obvious. For the most part, it serves as an extra layer of fabric so that over time, as moisture may appear, you'll have a bit of extra protection before it starts to show through on your jeans. It also helps keep hygiene products from slipping around, with the seam giving them something to grip to. Indentation in the bottom of a wine bottle. If you've taken a close look at a wine bottle, you've probably noticed that in almost every circumstance, the bottom of the bottle is indented. In recent years, there's been a conspiracy that this was done to give you the illusion that you're getting more wine than you really are. Well, that may play a part. The real reason for this indentation is actually pretty simple, yet very smart. When the bottles were created by hand many years ago, each bottle would have a sort of nipple on the bottom that was left over from the manufacturing process. Bottles like this obviously couldn't be shipped. They were not able to stand up on their own. So the glassmakers decided to push this indentation inside of the bottle. This took a lot of pressure off the bottom of the bottles and evenly distributed it around the outer glass, meaning the bottoms stood a much lesser chance of popping off, which was a common problem for many years. It also helps store sediment that may show up if a wine has been stored for many years. Colored stripes in toothpaste. If you've looked closely at a tube of toothpaste, you've probably noticed that many tubes have colored streaks on them. For the most part, a lot of people assume that these colors have meaning, explain something about the contents of the toothpaste, though that isn't true at all. Instead, they're used as a simple way of telling the manufacturing machines when to cut the tubes. They're known as tactile marks and can be found on all sorts of packaging. The colors, in reality, don't mean much at all. They usually consist of all the variations of colors that can be seen printed on the box, but by all means, they're only used as a guide for the machines to better understand when to cut. Bobbles on a hat. Though these hats are known by multiple names all over the world, in America, they're often called a beanie. These unique hats almost always have a bobble at the top of them that wiggles around as you walk. In more recent years, companies have made these baubles fashionable and will turn them into fur balls, pom-poms, or thousands of other things. Though these small baubles served a very important purpose many years ago. They first popped up on sailors' hats and would serve as a way for sailors to protect themselves from lower ceilings. Rather than hit their head on the ceiling, they would hit the bobble. As years passed by, they were also used by some countries in the military as a way to determine what rank a person was. These days, the baubles don't serve much of a purpose at all. Rather than being repurposed, such as the small pocket on a pair of jeans, they're just used as decoration. Holes in airplane windows. A lot of people have never been on an airplane, whether it's because you have an extreme fear of flying or if you simply never had the opportunity. Though, the next time you're given the chance to check out the inside of an airplane, look at the lower corner of the windows and you may notice a small hole in the glass. Most people don't notice this hole, and those that do don't really ask questions, though this hole is incredibly important when it comes to keeping the passengers safe and comfortable. Planes are obviously exposed to all sorts of pressure variations that will raise and lower depending on how high the plane is in the air. These changes can cause the cabin area to become extremely uncomfortable if the pressures are not regulated somehow. One way to do this is by using tiny holes in the windows. These holes allow pressure to escape as the plane's altitude increases, yet also allow air to enter as the plane descends. The holes are so small that it may seem crazy that they could serve such an amazing purpose, but it is true. Without these tiny holes helping to regulate the pressure of the cabin, your eyes may just pop out of your head the next time your plane touches the ground. Holes in padlocks. Padlocks aren't used as much as they used to be. These days, with everything going digital, electronic locks are slowly taking over. Though still, many of these electronic locks have a small hole in them. Have you ever wondered why many locks, almost all of them, have this strange hole? When you consider that many locks are left outdoors, it makes sense that the natural elements can begin to deteriorate the lock over time. As moisture gets in, it can become trapped and cause the lock to rust. If the lock becomes rusty, it can be much more difficult to open and may even break if a criminal puts too much pressure on it. These tiny holes keep that from happening. They allow water to quickly and easily drain out of the lock so that the internals don't rust from the weather. They're also super important because they give you an easy space to oil the lock to continue to help moisture stay away from the metal inside. Yes, you could just oil the lock through the keyhole, but that's not always the best option. These tiny holes may seem a bit ridiculous, but they're very important. Square leather patch on backpacks. If you've looked at a backpack recently, you may have noticed that many backpacks have a strange square patch on the top of them. For most people, this patch just works as decoration, though for the outdoorsman, this patch is essential. As you travel outdoors, whether hiking or climbing, you'll likely need somewhere to clip your equipment or hang your shoes. That's exactly what this patch does. It gives you an area to add a clip so that you can easily clip on extra belongings. Some people even tie their shoes through this hole so that they can take multiple pairs of shoes for multiple types of terrain. Obviously, there are tons of inventions all around us that shape the way we live and may make our daily lives a little bit easier. Though many of these inventions go unnoticed by most people, the next time you're walking around a home or a public area, just take a look around and admire how many products have been intelligently designed to serve a very specific purpose. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos.